Are now recording.
Great. Thank you. We have a quorum of the Community Resource Committee of the Town Council. Today is February 26, 2026, and this is 1 p.m. regular meeting. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, which extends through June 30, 2027, the ability of public bodies to meet in a remote or hybrid manner without a quorum of members in person. This meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so via Zoom or by telephone. No in-person attendance of members of the public is possible, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. So we have a quorum. I'm going to go around and see if everyone can be heard. Mandy Jo.
Present.
Andy Churchill.
Yes.
Councillor Walker.
Here.
Jennifer Taub.
Here.
And Pam Rooney's here. Great. We have no public hearings today, and we have no public attendees. So I'm going to bypass public comment at the moment. If people appear later, we can invite them to comment. I better keep that on. Okay. Action items. Item number 4, we are working on the clean energy bylaw. Town staff weighed in with significant effort, and we got through the beginning of that document up to section 18.10.9, which is signage. So we made good progress. And Mandy Johanneke agreed to be the scribe again, as she has in the past, which has been really helpful. I'm actually going to close down my attendees section so that if somebody does show up, just so I can make my screen larger and see the text better. Okay, so we left off exactly there and would like to work through the remainder of the document as best we can today. Just a note, Councillor Walker said she may need to step away at around 1:30, and otherwise I think we have everyone here. So section 18.10.9, were there any comments? There was, well, I should say, were there any comments from staff or CRC members on this particular section? Seeing none, let's move to 10.10.10. Utility connections, were there any comments? Seeing none, let's move to 18.11. And we make our way down to 18.11.01.03. Gotta love these numbers. And there were some clarifications of who reports are to be made available to. Does anyone have any disagreement with the proposed wording for the folks? And just shout, just say stop or something, because I'm looking hard at the text and I'm really not looking for hands.
What's a building official?
Pardon?
What is a building official in that 1811.01.03?
The product shall be made available to the fire officials as opposed to a fire marshal. So that would. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Andy, I think your question is who are the building officials, which is also noted in that line, and that would be the building commissioner and building inspectors.
Okay. Thank you.
I guess the question is, should we just reference the Amherst Fire Department and the building commissioner instead?
If that's what
we reference the fire department in other sections.
Seems cleaner.
Yeah. Building commissioner and the GPGA. Does anyone have any reason to not accept this? We can accept it and clean up the text. Seeing none, let's clean up the text.
So I will do what I did last time. I'll clean this section up afterwards, but this at
got
least
it.
creates a record of what we changed during the meeting then.
Super, thank you. Okay. And right below, we have the Amherst Fire Department, so that is in line with. So in sections 11 throughout section 11, there are no additional comments until we get to 01.11 under emergency services. The comment is that if it says the best owner or operator shall provide a copy of the project summary, electrical schematics, and site plan to the Amherst Fire Department. Mandy, can you state where you're going with what you're
I
looking
went
for?
to, sorry, I went to 1814 to see if what was there was in 1814. Because that's where Stephanie said if it was there, we could delete it up above. It was schematics and site plan and everything.
Yeah. Does it have the electrical schematics? I think it did.
I'm not seeing anything about schematics in these sections about what the emergency response plan needs.
In the submittals, which is 18.04, I think. There was a requirement to provide the electrical line drawings, I think.
But that's to the PGA. And this is to the fire department.
Is there any?
Could I just jump in quick,
Absolutely.
Pam, here? Because this was one of those things that came up that was, I think, from fire standpoint, I think they sort of questioned why having any kind of emergency plan specifically stated, any details specifically stated here, when they have their own separate requirements that have to be met. So rather than putting them in here, I think they felt we should just be referencing their emergency plan and following their protocols. Because if you look at the comment at 1814, that's basically what it says is, do we really need this? Shouldn't we be referencing them instead? And I think that was a question that Fire had for you. I think they thought it was maybe confusing.
I don't have a problem with eliminating it if the fire department already asks for it, but I want it to be really clear somewhere that a complete emergency services plan must be given to the fire department to their specifications. And maybe this is the kind of thing that in the interim, when other people are looking at this document, we can spend a little time backtracking on some of these potential redundancies.
Would that rewrite work?
I think for now, because I know that we'll be asking folks to take a final look at this when you have the complete draft, just to make sure that
Yeah.
that language is correct. So we'll definitely have staff review it one last time.
Okay.
Good. Move on to 110201. Does anyone have an issue with adding fencing to the use of concrete? They're not often installed with concrete, but they might be. Shall we accept this? Did we already accept it?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Right here. I accepted that one.
I am really having trouble seeing the wording. 110202, newly constructed access roads shall meet Amherst Fire Department requirements. That was the concern of the fire department. Great. (1803). There's a comment about the requirements shall apply to SBI and BESS installed in prime forests. The comment from staff is that, one of the comments is that there ought to be a section that's similar to the comment about maintaining land for future use in agriculture. Um, the material from the state actually goes into a lot more detail than our original bylaw did about protecting the infrastructure of the forest. I'm just going to use those words, which aren't correct, but does anyone have any problem just leaving this as it is?
So I'm reading Stephanie's of the definition is broad and how do you prove things, and given this was drafted before we had in some sense or thought about and added in before we had the site suitability guidelines and the mitigation minimization sort of thing that can go along with them. So I'm wondering if this is necessary given that new sort of structure that the state is using with site suitability, because that scoring will take into account if it's a prime forest and then would require its own sort of minimization, potential mitigation, that this might be sort of confusing or slightly redundant. So I think I favor deleting Stephanie's comment, the deleting part of the comment here.
So I thank you for reminding me that it was the site suitability. So I think all the numbers 1, 2, 3 through 7 are I think those are the wordings from the site suitability requirement. So I think, isn't that why they're now in this paragraph?
Oh, you're asking me to go back months on how this paragraph was redone. I actually have no idea if that's what I'm not sure that's what we captured but maybe it's part of a subset of the site suitability. It's not the main like 6 site suitability does, but maybe it's a subset of one of the site suitability sections.
Yeah, it definitely came from the state wording.
Can we just refer to the state suitability? Just say it must meet state suitability standards or something?
Are not jeopardized per state suitability standards, yeah. And not have to list them out.
Yeah.
Owned or operated.
Yeah, this wording is wordy and definitely from the state.
I don't even know where to change stuff. I think that's one of the reasons I just favor deleting it.
Do we have
Because I guess
any?
part of it is if we stick with the wording not jeopardized, we might be going afoul of site suitabilities, which means you cannot deny something for a bad site suitability per se. You have to allow mitigation and all. And so how would this fit in with that?
If we just said following values are not jeopardized per the state site suitability standards. I mean, they're the ones that would set the bar.
But again, if you can jeopardize the standards and then mitigate, then just saying they may not jeopardize is not quite correct.
Right. So site
But
suitability.
is that the state language?
I don't know whether it is. Because you can jeopardize, but then have significant mitigation to still get your permit. Because this is sort of the language we pulled from some of the site suitability guidelines.
Right.
If this is potentially conflicting or confusing in relation to that, maybe we should just defer.
Is there I'm trying to remember if there's a special section in the state template for construction in forest lands.
There was not in the state template. And
But isn't that a criterion of the suitability?
it's part of the site suitability assessment when you get your score. And the site suitability report.
So if I could, I would just point out, again, to staff comments of how do you prove that these values are not jeopardized? So just pulling one out, maintenance of air and water quality. I would say that these are problematic in how this is written because there's no real way to, I think, definitively prove that these values haven't been jeopardized. So I would either delete them or defer.
A question. So some of these actually seem to me to be almost like general conditions that the permit granting authority needs. I mean, it's similar to what ZBA says, like you can't increase, erosion, your project can't increase air quality or something like that. It's pretty general, but are these perhaps better suited in as little reminders for the ZBA or planning board reviewing something?
I would say maybe. I mean, in reading some of these things, I've actually got some real problems with requiring improving of conditions for outdoor recreation, improving of conditions for wildlife. That doesn't even make sense. They might not have any outdoor it's a private land. You don't have to require, I think I just want to delete.
Anyone have an issue with that, with deleting? Go for it. Section 1812, stormwater management. The first sentence was recommended to be deleted. We already state that in everything else. Okay, moving into section 1813, hazardous materials. To me, the hazardous materials section and some of the tail end items and general conditions are probably one of the more redundant areas, I think, in this whole bylaw. So let's make our way through here. A lot of this is just some wording upgrades, which is fine. As a follow through, once this document's clean, I do want somebody with expertise in the hazardous materials review and oversight to really go through and comb this to make sure we aren't being redundant.
I
So-
would agree with that.
So under 1813.02, looks like we can accept all of these proposed changes.
Except the change to prohibited.
Yep. So 1303 use I would just add in the public right of way, the only right of way that we're dealing with really would be a roadside use of herbicides. Okay, the comment here, check the Attorney General's comments on pesticide regulations re-solar bylaw. Do we have any update on that particular comment?
I might be able to find something quickly. I can go back and see. Basically, the AG has said that you can't, that state law regulates the use of herbicides and pesticides, so bylaws can't. This is my vague memory from reading the stuff a year ago. So I can go back and look up those comments and see if there's suggested language or not, or at least paste a comment into here so we can see what the concern and stuff is.
But we do paste a comment in and then come back to it at another time. And recognize that once we wrap this up, basically, it will go to the planning board for at least introduction. Maybe they have some comments relative to some of these conditions.
Yeah.
1304, accept the change to fire department. Section 1814. The question here is says for all ground mounted solar photovoltaic installations, agrivoltaic installations, et cetera, et cetera. And the question is, would it be better to, should we apply this to small ground mounted, medium ground mounted, or simply and only large ground mounted?
Or now it would be like tier 3 only, or 2, whatever the biggest
Right.
tier is.
Right. So the question is, do we want an emergency response plan for small systems? It does include BESS, so standalone BESS and co-located BESS are already included in this coverage. So the question is, do we want emergency response plans for anything other than large ground-mounted solar arrays? Jennifer.
I'm just wondering if staff had an opinion about that, Stephanie?
I don't think we did. Again, the general response from fire was, shouldn't we be just basically referring to the process, their process for any kind of emergency response? So we didn't necessarily identify it specifically by size.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't have kind of the expertise to know.
So we could potentially add in the same language, meet the requirements of NFP that and
It already has that. The second sentence says the emergency plan shall be developed in consultation with Amherst Fire Department, meet the requirements of NFPA 855 and be approved by the Amherst Fire Department. So I don't mind leaving it as for all ground mounted solar, for just include all. And the fire department may come back and say, well, we don't really need it for small and medium.
or it could just be a different type of emergency plan then.
Yeah.
And then delete what it includes. Do people like the addition of the requirements of the fire department too, or do they think that's unnecessary because it's already going to be developed in consultation and approved by them?
I would I would simplify and delete the specific A through zero, A through O, as reflected in the comments there.
So delete
So
that.
hold on, before we delete,
I
the
can
question,
undelete it if
yeah,
people don't.
the,
Yeah.
the question is, as in many cases, do we send a developer off to to the fire department? And the fire department has to develop their own request list. So here we have procedures for safe shutdown, procedures for inspection and testing, procedures to be followed in case of fire explosion, da da da. Is it more helpful to include this list here rather than make the fire department develop this essentially the same list? Stephanie?
I think the fire department's representatives felt that they already had requirements, and so I think identifying them here was redundant to their process. So when they may not specifically provide a list, but they certainly have a process by which an applicant would have to conform to whatever their procedure is. So again, this is where I think they felt it might be somewhat redundant, um, and unnecessary. And I don't think contradictory, but it might be confusing because again, they have their process and they want applicants to go through their process and not necessarily defer to this as well. I provided my emergency plan.
Okay, so this is I think one of the submittal requirements back in 1804. I think emergency plan is on there. This outlines what the emergency plan contains. Am I correct?
We just said, if applicable, an emergency response plan as detailed in section 1814. We could say compliant with section 1814 or something.
And then 1814 is simply going to say, for all of these following, you are going to go and consult with the Amherst Fire Department. So so it never does actually spell it out, but it at least is very clear that it has to be developed in conjunction with them.
Yeah, and that they would have to approve it before system commissioning. So they might have to submit their draft at the time of submitting, but it couldn't be commissioned and given its final whatever from the building commissioner until the fire department's approved it.
Which I believe is the case.
Yeah.
So we would probably have at least a paragraph covering this in section 1814, since we're being referred here.
We would keep what I've highlighted in gray.
Yes.
Although I've added
Yes.
a comment that I will check the current wording since we changed a lot of the language to refer to a lot of this to make sure it agrees.
Great.
And then we would delete the specifics of what it would include.
Right. Because that is actually up to the fire department.
Right.
Everybody hanging with us? So, you know, editing by committee is
That
awful.
got rid of like a half a page, so we're shortening it.
Excellent. I see a comment under 1815. Oh, that was where we stopped. Need to check with staff to confirm whether this section is needed, and it says fine to have as is. So section 1815 remains in place. Section 1816, simply a change to call out the fire department. We're accepting the fire department.
Yes. I was still reading the comment here. Uh, so this comment, I don't know why it's sitting with construction maintenance. I'm so confused. I think I put it in the wrong section, but we'll resolve it. Okay, we've got modifications. Stephanie says it is needed.
Yes. And then special permit waivers, I see no. It says not sure if this is needed.
And they don't know at this time. So we'll leave it for now and leave the comment.
Yep. On to reporting and monitoring.
Oh, I think we said we weren't ready to talk about it. I think that's what this comment is, that we weren't ready to talk about it because we needed more guidance on like what are the reporting requirements in big things. So
Well, was our comment, it was, if it was back a year ago, September, that was before the state material came out.
yeah, or it was sort of it was right before while we were working on that, and I think it was more, I think my argument was the reporting shouldn't necessarily be more, I was worried that this was too overbearing and tough to comply with and not what and beyond what we typically ask for in large construction projects. And so I think the question was, what's typical of a big multi-acre construction project? You know, if we pointed to stuff, what has Fort Rivers School undergone in reporting requirements and afterwards, and sort of the duringness and then the after stuff. I think I wanted to see better alignment with current practice in other large scale construction projects.
Mhm. And it sounds like, though, that weekly is fine and consistent with Concom.
Yeah. So
I think
that one for
so.
this one.
Yeah.
But the question is how many years?
Is the blue
Okay,
language from staff?
Oh, I think the blue is from staff, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel comfortable with accepting that. I mean, these are things that certainly erosion control methods, and those are checked on a regular basis just to make sure they're still intact, they're still doing their job. You know, if there's fire compliance, plumbing, electricity, safety inspectors, that sounds like staff would know more. They added that in.
So should the monitoring requirements be based on the conditions for approval in the consolidated permit? Because the consolidated permit will have it's just one permit. Or should it just remain from all town bodies with jurisdictions?
Isn't the idea to try to have it be a consolidated?
I mean, it has to be if they go that route, but then we keep hearing from like KP Law in the state that people can choose another non-consolidated route, and I have no idea how you do that, but what does
Well,
Stephanie
so
think?
yeah, so the question is, the very last sentence says monitoring requirements shall be based on the conditions for approval from all town bodies with jurisdiction, which to me sort of overrides everything else.
I'm sort of thinking this through while we're talking about it. I I think maybe perhaps this is something we want to make a comment for staff to take a look at again.
Yeah.
Again, because we were spending 2 hour sessions going through this and um, we may, it may be one of those things that we didn't really think as carefully about.
Yeah, that's
So
fine.
maybe just have us take a look at that one more time.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next section 19013. The question might be during construction, fine. And then for how many years post-construction?
So I
And
think,
are these different than the one above? Because the other one's got the stormwater compliance and stuff too.
Well, this paragraph is strictly talking about 24-hour rain events or within 24 hours of significant storm events. So that's pretty specific. I think the very first couple of words during construction and for we've already covered during construction. I think we should get rid of the words during construction in the 0.013. Does that make sense, Stephanie? I mean, this is a new topic. This is post-construction.
and I would say that, just sort of practically speaking, once these are constructed, I think a year's worth of monitoring is probably enough because they're not going to change, right? So I would say a year when you've gone through a growing season, you've been able to sort of see runoff and how that impacts the land, the soil. I would say a year should be sufficient.
So monthly reports to confirm compliance with the stormwater prevention plan? Because this one just says literally monthly reports to these places, but doesn't say about what, the first sentence.
And again, this is one of the ones where I'm wondering how carefully folks really read this because it also, we didn't change fire chief.
Yeah.
That should be fire department. And I'm feeling, I mean, again, this feels a bit redundant to me to some other places the stormwater is referenced, so maybe read this one again more carefully.
That would be good. As well as 014.
So I'm gonna at least delete that part so it says what the report's about.
Mhm.
Okay. Um,
So Mandy, I think what the report is about has to do specifically with the 24-hour significance within 24 hours of the storm event. That is the kind of thing that probably wants to be spelled out for the storm event.
so then it's not monthly reports, it's within 24 or 48 hours of significant storm events.
Right.
So we would reject this part.
So Stephanie, here's a staff question. So within a year of construction or the start of operation, if there is a significant storm event, the third party person goes out and does a complete report on essentially how is everything holding up. They would be required to do that close monitoring for 1 year. And then it's basically it's what it is until some neighbor says, hey, the detention bond is overflowing. Does that make sense? So the
Yes.
so I think Mandy, the way we might want to say it is for 1 year post construction, there will be a third party inspector going to the site after significant storm events and on a monthly basis to confirm that everything is in working order.
The monthly and within. So I put
Alicia,
the monthly back in up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Andy and Alicia, aren't you glad that you raised your hand to be on the CRC?
We're trying to get through this as quick as possible. So are we good to go to 14?
Yep. 14 looks fine.
Stephanie says delete.
Oh,
So again, this was,
Yeah.
the staff comment was that if you don't do this for other large scale projects, why are you specifically calling it out for these installations?
so noted. I'm comfortable with taking it out. The solar bylaw working group will be raising havoc, but so debris cleanup, there was no comment on that. 016, there was a simplification. So if 016, the applicant shall submit an annual report. Do we still, I thought we just got rid of an annual report.
So this is a report about safety incidents. And up here were inspection reports.
Operation and maintenance plan.
And it doesn't have an end date for this one. Which seems a little excessive.
I think let me read it. I think this one is if there is an incident.
Any
is-
safety incidents that required notification.
Right. So
Okay.
this is more of an incident report, not an inspection or monitoring. This is whether something actually happened.
So I'm going to I don't know if Dave is still with us, but in terms of Hickory Ridge, putting on the cap of what is staff going to be looking at over time at Hickory Ridge? Are any of these requirements things that they really feel should be in place, or are we okay saying we'll have enough, oversight of these projects that we don't need to worry about it?
I don't think Dave is available. I think he stepped
Okay,
away.
that's fine. That's fine.
So I'm looking at 17, and 17 says you have to do it within a week, and 16 says do it annually, but they seem to be wanting the same thing.
Well, isn't the second saying if there's an incident and the other is requiring it regardless of an incident?
I mean, I just added that if it was applicable, you'd do it if there were incidents within the year. So I think the question is, do you want them after the incident or on a yearly basis? But I'm not sure you need them both.
Well,
Go ahead, Stephanie.
I was going to say, if there's an incident, I don't think you would wait a year to have a report, although I have to imagine that fire has their own specific requirements for when incidents occur. Um, so, again, this is something I might have staff double check.
That would be great. I could see combining those two paragraphs, I mean, it 16 says, it's almost like a wrap up, an annual report detailing all of the incidents that happened. 17 is what do we want to hear about each incident, which could be combined.
Well, I will say there is a distinction between the two in that one is also including complaints.
Yeah.
And the next one is really specifically about any kind of maybe emergency response to an incident that required first responders. That's separate. I think 1917 is more specific to something that's more of an emergency, whereas the above is actually maybe not specifically an incident. It's more, like I said, it includes complaints as well, and that's an annual report. So it seems like there's, they have different levels of gravity.
I
Can I
wonder
just
if
ask something? Do you think the solar bylaw working group, what they were getting at was to have an annual report in the hopes that might avoid an incident? I mean, should be a report if there is an incident. I'm just wondering if that was their thinking in the one that we just deleted above.
yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. The If there's an incident requiring first responders, it makes sense maybe to submit a report and we can pop the any changes and the necessary if any changes, we could pop this down into here, right? And then maybe make the complaint reports the focus of 16, so it's only the complaints, but then I'm like, what complaints, and why are we asking them to do that? Like, that seems so broad and vague that I don't understand the reason behind submitting yearly reports about complaints. Complaints about what? Anything? You didn't mow your grass? Like, there was a pothole. I just don't understand what the point of 16 is in the complaint side of it.
I'm almost thinking that it's people on the ground living nearby, so they're being asked to plant trees and shrubs, And I could imagine that someone says, they put in an extensive amount of trees and shrubs, but they're all dead. And so that, they really need to address it. That's the kind of complaint I could imagine.
Would those complaints go to the operator or would they come to the town?
They probably would be raised with the town so that the town would go back to the operator. I don't think most of us have the operator's contact. Well, contact information should be posted, but I think the town ought to be aware of non-compliance. Let's put it that way.
I would think people would contact the town, most people first.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like 16 should just be deleted.
As staff, I would agree.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Yeah, right.
Because I think it's going to come to the town anyway. I agree with all of you that, these complaints are going to come to the town. They're not going to call the owner or
Yeah.
operator at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So 017 is, yes, there is going to be a report to the fire chief or the Amherst Fire Department and the building commissioner within 1 week of an incident.
And I moved the necessary changes made
Yeah.
to that section.
Great.
Would it be the necessary changes, if any? Sorry.
Yep.
1902. I see no-
Agrivoltaics, we had a request to, I think there was a suggestion to get rid of the specific definition of agrivoltaics to begin with. I don't know whether that changes this section or need for it.
The state seems to, Stephanie, sorry, you have your hand up.
No, Pam, why don't you finish your comment and then I'll comment
I think
after you.
I think the state is certainly encouraging agrivoltaics. We were, and certainly the working group was very favorable about agrivoltaics. We would like to see land maintained in agricultural use. The point being that maybe we're going to be more lenient with them because of this favorable use. And so if we don't mention it, how can we be more lenient? I guess that was the point of it. Stephanie.
So, and I noticed this when I was reviewing the document before the meeting as well. Agrivoltaics does show up in the chart. So I know that staff comment earlier about agrivoltaics specifically was confusion by some staff members who didn't understand the difference between what an what is an agrivoltaic system, quote unquote, versus a ground mounted system, right? So I think agrivoltaics refers more to in my mind, the general practice of installing solar on farmland, whereas a ground mounted system is the system that's placed on the agricultural land. So I think it's just a matter of semantics, maybe. And I think that's what just has to be maybe addressed.
Okay. So the definition we're using is a canopy SPI where the land beneath is used for agricultural purposes.
Yeah.
And so I think this comment from before, Stephanie, Pam had wanted to keep it in if we're asking for agrivoltaic reports later on, then keeping the definition in so people know which ones have to comply with that makes sense then.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I would agree because, as I said, it's also mentioned in the chart. So
all can agree to keep agrivoltaics.
Yes.
Great. Okay, we're at 18.20, transfer of ownership. And there was the comment was on 1820.03 that if there are changes made to the project, they do require the approval of the permit granting authority. And staff said definitely yes, keep that. I'm happy with that. Can we accept it?
I resolved the comment, so I'll delete that
Great.
comment
Great,
before sending it out again.
great. Okay, 1821 financial surety. There seem to be no comments on that section. 1822 abandonment or decommissioning.
I'm sorry, there were X's there. Is that? Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about. Okay.
We
Yep.
just have to figure out, I haven't put the section number in.
Well, so it
So-
occurred to me that if we just said consistent with this bylaw, we don't need to specifically reference anything because it's actually this section that we would refer people to.
Okay.
Eighteen 2203. Any other comment on that? There was an addition of, I can't read. We were suggested to add for if the facility ceases operation for over 12 months, the comment was add in for photovoltaic systems and 1 month for BESS systems.
That work for everyone?
For me. And then we come to the X's again. The town may use financial surety as described in section X for this purpose.
We could just say as described in this bylaw for this purpose.
Yeah. And that is basically the end of the text. So we have a few sections that would appreciate another deeper dive by staff. And
All right. We've got the use chart to go and some other things to go
Yep.
too. And
Yep,
then maybe we
exactly.
can circle back to some of the changes that are in red that I left in red and tracked for this version last time.
Right.
So this chart that's on the table now is the old one, but I didn't want to delete it and all the comments associated with it. The staff proposed this chart. In this new set of definitions of tiers and stuff.
Oh, good. Good. I was thinking that we were using both of them and it didn't occur to me
I
that
just didn't want to delete one without.
Thank you.
So this is the chart that was proposed by staff. And the one above it, this one is the one we sent to staff, if that makes sense.
Right. Great, because I really like the organization of the staff proposal.
The one that's on the screen now.
Yes, and the reason I like it is that it does it in tiers from least and smallest to largest and most complicated. And the other one was all mixed up. So this is great.
If I could jump in real quickly too.
Yes.
This chart, I'm double checking. This chart actually doesn't reference agrivoltaics.
Right.
And I think, again, I just want to be clear about what staff was reacting to, because this does refer to canopy systems, which are on, so agrivoltaics are canopy systems on agricultural land. So again, just
Mm.
making that point, do you need to have a definition for agrivoltaics? But if you think the state clearly does and you want to be consistent, then I will leave that comment there.
No, that's a good point, Stephanie, because under the current definition of agrivoltaics in the draft, it's a subset of canopy solar, so it would be yeses no matter how big across the RO, RLD, and RN, which is most likely the zones it would be built under, unless we threw agrivoltaic specifically into ground mounted, like the next one down with different tiers. I think that's potentially a conversation to have. I think the way agrivoltaics is used within the bylaw for just reporting requirements is fine to keep it in the bylaw. Because we might want that report if they've installed an
Right.
agrivoltaic, but that becomes, did staff understand that agrivoltaics would be a yes no matter how big when they proposed this chart?
I would have to ask.
Yeah.
So maybe, do you want to make a comment?
Is that a good enough
Yeah.
comment?
Yeah. So
clear.
if in fact we end up incorporating or including agrivoltaics under building mounted / canopy, we might in fact put in parentheses, including photovoltaics. So that would be a clear reminder.
Yeah. And we're going to delete this change. The original proposal.
Yes. Yes.
Um, any concerns about the rest of the table?
I think not spending time today just double checking, if we feel comfortable, the yeses, the nos, the site plan reviews or special permits. I think it's good to leave it at this. It's the kind of conversation that I hope the planning board would have when they're sitting there and talking about it. So I'd be happy to move on, having, I'll say, adopted this format. I think that's puts us in good shape. And I can try to make a note in my little report to them.
Yeah. And then they proposed a table for Article 5, but they need to staff needs to draft language for Article 5 regarding accessory uses.
Say that again.
So what we got back from staff included a table to be inserted into Article 5, which is accessory uses.
Right.
Talking about where they're permitted, and I guess we might need this classification up here. Maybe. But we don't have, they wrote new section to be added. We'll need an introductory paragraph that directs readers to these articles, and we don't have that paragraph or anything yet from staff.
Right. As far as the suggestions in red, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I just thought it was clearer. I added the SPI best because I thought it was clearer.
Yep, yep, I like that. So now we are into, okay, I'll let you finish. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just
Uh,
accepting the two I added. Okay.
Yep. So now for folks' awareness, we are now into sections of the bylaw that might get impacted by adding a solar bylaw, a clean energy bylaw. And so that affects different sections of the bylaw, including perhaps the height of fences. And the staff comment was that doesn't believe the section's necessary. Some of the height requirements conflict with other permit granting authority limits and requirements.
So staff recommends we don't change any wording in the fences section of the bylaw right now. Is that correct, Stephanie?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Shall I delete that whole thing then?
The only thing that sticks in my mind in terms of fences, and I think this is something that came up at Hickory Ridge, is the requirement to leave a gap from the ground up to the bottom of the fencing so that the rabbits and turtles and so forth can come and go through those areas. And I don't think there's anywhere else that we establish fencing. And I'm actually also uncomfortable saying, you must have a fence. Well, maybe, a developer doesn't want to have a fence. That would be okay with me. Um,
If I could jump in here, Pam, very quickly.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
so
yes, thank you.
the height from the ground for wildlife, I, and I don't know if this was specific to Concom regulations, but I know that that was a requirement under conditions for Concom approval. So I don't know if it's just a sort of general condition in fencing but as one of the program granting authorities, they would certainly be requiring it. Um, so again, I don't know if it's I haven't looked in the sort of general bylaw section. Um, but certainly Concom would require that. So they are one of the reviewing bodies. And I think the second part, I think you said something else, besides the height of the fencing.
The
What was?
requirement for a fence.
Oh, right. So I think that has to do potentially with safety and access. I will say that probably most developers will probably want to protect this asset. So I think in general, um, I've not really seen large installations that don't have fencing.
I haven't either, but to actually say, the installations shall be completely enclosed by chain link or comparable fencing to prevent entry. I mean, that really is, the burden is on the developer to do that, I would think.
But there is a safety issue.
So the town is saying if there's a solar development, we, the town, really want to protect our people, so we should include this.
I would think so.
But you recommended we delete the whole thing so that it
Well,
wouldn't be required.
Right.
I'd have to, I just don't remember if we had it referenced elsewhere
We had
earlier
moved it
on.
into this section and not in the requirements in the solar bylaw itself because there was a fence section already in the bylaw.
Right.
So
Well,
we cover it in the bylaw. We don't need to go to section 6, fencing.
Right. We
Unless-
could put it in the bylaw, but then the question was which one prevails, 6 or whatever number it would become. I think that's why, since there was clearly a fence section, we had thought to put it here, or why Chris Brestrup recommended at one point here. But if they're conflicting with other limits and requirements, you don't want to write something that conflicts.
Right. Now I've got to go back and look at the fencing section. We ask for site plans that show where the fencing is. I guess this section in fencing, which is where fencing could all be together. It gives the details of what is and isn't acceptable. And maybe we could take another look at this and winnow it down. So it's simpler. Come back to that again. And again, maybe the planning board, because they deal with fencing a lot, they may have some desire to put their mark on it. So I'll make a note of that as well. Of particular interest to the planning board.
I'll leave for planning board consideration of whether to include, and if so, where and what.
Great.
Moving on.
Moving on. Definitions.
Okay.
Um,
So what is in red? Let me explain what's in red. What's in red is new definitions provided by staff or moved or removed because of how the use table now references stuff. So we had needed an accessory use. Staff gave us one. So I tried to meet what Nate gave us in that email here, but I wanted to show what that change was compared to what we had, which is why I left it tracked. The proposed use table had a reference to building mounted SPI, which we actually didn't have anything about building mounted SPI. So I made up a definition for it, unless maybe that was one where I think I moved that one from, it was either provided or I moved it from the definitions in the draft article, but
Yep.
It needed moved out here. Solar facility, I deleted. It was not requested to be in Article 12, and you'll actually see that I deleted it from the proposed Article 2 because it's not actually used in the proposed article anywhere other than in the definition of solar facility. So if we weren't going to use it,
Yeah.
I was going to get rid of it. And ground mounted SPI was sort of that change. So this is the one I made up. Building mounted was provided. Ground mounted was a new one that we did not have. And so I made it up by saying it's neither canopy nor building mounted, and then added the tiers from the table in. And I cleaned up SPI because we always just used SPI, not solar facilities. So just cleaning
Yep.
it up, and then added the tiers for standalone BESS. Any questions, concerns, requested changes? Because I could then accept all of these.
Anybody? Let's go for it.
Was this in our packet?
Yeah, it's the clean version. So the title is now Clean Energy Bylaw Draft.
Okay, because I like to
V5.
read it on my own. I put it on my
Yeah.
own screen because I can't read this. So,
Yeah.
okay, it's too
I think
small.
we can get some of them bigger now. I can't see the comments when I make it big, which is the problem.
Yeah, I understand.
Oh, we fixed that thread. Okay, so then the things I left changed was we added a definition of ground mounted SPI. So then we have to re-reference it here. Um, off-grid system was not used in the bylaw,
Right.
so I deleted it here as at some point it must have been, but in all the revisions it disappeared from use within our draft, so I've deleted it. For primary SPI, we don't reference LGPI anymore. We're using a tier system, so that's why I proposed deleting that sentence. Because we're just not using that sort of thing anymore. Solar energy and solar facility were not used within the bylaw. So I started just trying to clean some stuff up as I was playing with definitions. And so then the rest are, that's the only changes in definitions here. I added them back in. We had added them into here. I went back to with Article 12 when we got the clarification from Stephanie. So
Does everyone feel comfortable accepting these changes? I'm seeing thumbs up.
excellent.
Love it. Accept all changes.
Yeah. Okay, so those definitions.
I can feel the weight lifting off my head.
We're getting there. I think that might. Oh, yep. No, we just changed that one today. I
Okay,
think
now
that's.
you've gone back to section.
Yeah, so the only other thing that was in this bylaw before we started today that had a track change was this screening and planting section, because we had that question
Right, right.
that we needed to discuss. So based on what was emailed from staff, I deleted the effective at time of installation up here and added the sentence about at time of planting shrubs minimum height and tree minimum caliper diameter, and left highlighted the numbers because we have to decide the numbers.
I'm going to weigh in on the size of the plant material. These are really large for something that's, you know, a massive scale of, you know, whoever knows, 100 shrubs or something like that. And I think they need to be small containers. They'll adapt and they'll acclimate quicker um, than a large plant will. And I would say shrubs would have a minimum height of 3 feet. And trees a minimum of 1 inch caliper.
I like what you're saying, Pam. It's like
know.
I think I agree that they were huge. That would be a huge cost, and who knows how long they will be maintained. And the bigger you put them in, the more likely you're actually going to end up with dead plants
Right,
instead of
right,
things that will
right.
thrive.
Yeah, the smaller ones will adapt quicker.
Great.
Any other comments about accepting those changes?
And everything else we did today. So I guess the question I would have, if we're still have time to talk about this, is how to, it's in this consolidated permit application submittal requirements. KP Law, their small clean energy facility bylaw, in their definitions, just defined somewhere in here what a consolidated local permit was, what the application was, and the local government representative. They literally just defined the term local government representative, which I'm not sure belongs in our definitions if we're not trying to bring their consolidated local permit in, but I think we could use that in this section of consolidated permit application. You know, it's being submitted, or somewhere where we could create a section that says, oh, this section that says and local government representative, the way I don't know whether we need to change it. KP Law did it this way. They picked someone, but I as long as we've got something. It said check
Yeah,
the
I think
language
ours,
and
I
whether
think our,
necessary.
I don't even like their language. I don't like their wording. I'd rather just keep that whatever's in pink.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to check on that.
And we don't have a title that community and economic development.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's who for whoever they were using it for, right? But where's the local government? But I wanted to make sure we had something that kind of matched what they were. So I think we can resolve the checking the language. I would say it's necessary. I think that was my only, given the KP Law stuff, their draft consolidated local permit that they provided us really did just track a lot of the regs, it looked like. So didn't think there was much to add to ours.
Yeah. I think we were pretty complete to begin with.
Yeah. I didn't want you guys to see my scroll.
The other outstanding one was actually on page 5. This is also under permit application submittals. There was one outstanding comment about staff review, which of the sub items are duplicative of all boards and committees. No, we already dealt with that. We already
Yeah,
dealt with that.
we just had a need to make sure that they're the requirements of each PGA are included somehow. I think that's a return to staff for that.
And my only,
might-
my only, yeah, my only consideration is that under D, it says plans showing proposed changes to property for the property site. Number 1 was those requirements specified by 225 CMR 29 or associated guidance. I'm suspecting that 225 CMR has a bunch of I know they have a bunch of these already, but I would rather have them in our bylaw than to send somebody off to 225 CMR to get their list.
So 225 CMR 29 is the clean energy regs. So they're
Right.
going to be they're going to be so familiar with those anyway that I'm not too worried. Because that's where the site suitability requirements are. It's where it all is.
Yeah. Good. So we'll leave it here.
Yeah.
This is kind of a monumental moment. I think we are at a point, I will put together a short transmittal letter. And Jennifer, go ahead.
No, I just want to say thank you to Pam and Mandy for shepherding this through. I was on CRC last time, so I can't say I'm just coming into it, but this has all been out of my comfort zone and really very too technical for me. And so you guys really pushed this through. And of course, Stephanie and the staff, but thank you.
Totally.
Are we basically saying we're sending this off to planning board and
Yes, we
they'll
are.
come back to us in like less than a month with their comments so that we can get this to the council?
Yes, but I'm gonna, a little caveat. So Stephanie.
I was just going to recommend actually before you do that, because you do have some requests for staff to review a few things. So I would just give us till the next meeting, at least I can get this out today, right after this meeting to staff and have some responses to those final things so that you have a really fully clean draft to get to planning board. And I know that we maybe wanted to introduce it to them informally, maybe prior to a formal
Definitely.
submission to them. So
Yes.
it gives a little more time for that as well.
So can I just respond or suggest something?
Yep.
So we can't formally submit this to planning board because we're just one committee, and it's not being submitted for hearing. So I'm wondering if we're trying to get this done, or moving and done, would CRC mind if staff just respond to those comments within, and we hand them sort of a clean track change version, those lingering comments, I can even clean up. They can track it and send it right to planning board for their review so that we're not delaying 2 extra weeks. And we can just deal with it in conjunction with planning board's comments.
Yeah, because we can continue looking at it at the same time the planning board is. I put together that very draft timeline, and I'm looking at today being the February 26th. Shall I show this on the screen? Would that be helpful?
It might,
Yes,
yeah.
because it was hard.
Okay.
I printed it, but still had trouble. It still came out small. That was a lot of work. Thank you.
So does that show up?
Oh, no, I was saying the other, you sent us something else. that was
The very
printed. That was
okay.
small. Yeah.
So that is a little confusing, but it's the timeline across time. Maybe this will be helpful just for now as we talk about it. Today is the 26th. I highlighted that in yellow, and I wasn't sure if we would finish our deliberation today or maybe our next meeting, which would have been March 12. I'm very comfortable at the position we're in to send this to staff and say, can you focus on the following items? And Stephanie's aware of the items. And maybe Mandy, when you send the clean version, you could just highlight the ones that we still wanted staff to take a look at.
Mhm.
That would be extremely helpful. So that we can start sharing on, for instance, March 18, if the planning board has time on their agenda, that's a factor, that there could be the introduction at that time to this bylaw, and they could spend that meeting and possibly April 8 meeting talking about this bylaw and confirming decisions that have been made.
And I would say if they can do it even one meeting earlier, that would be even better.
That
I
would
don't know when
be-
their next meeting is.
That would be lovely. Otherwise, it would go to their April 22nd meeting, and that would be the third opportunity for them to discuss it. They would have to turn around immediately, or I would listen to the meeting and take notes. The 23rd is the next CRC meeting, and that would be the point at which we kind of put a stamp of approval on it, and then immediately send that to KP Law and to Town Council if there's time, and if you're aware of it, Mandy, for the April 27 Town Council meeting.
Yeah, if you, I mean, obviously Alicia and I, Councilor Walker and I sit in this committee, so it's a little easier. But if we know, we can probably put it on that meeting. It's a referral only, and referrals tend not to take huge amounts of time, especially when they're this complicated.
Yeah.
There, there seems to be a medium between the more complicated, the more people rely on staff almost, because it's so much to comprehend, especially at the referral stage. So I suspect we would have time to deal with that on the April 23rd agenda, or even the agenda before that, if it's ready for the agenda before that, early April, especially since it's just a referral, which would likely just go on consent potentially.
Yeah.
So are you thinking
The,
this is
pre-
an,
the previous town council meeting would be April 6th, so that's quite a bit before I think we would be
Yeah,
ready,
yeah,
because the April 8th, 2 days later, is only the second time the planning board can talk about it, and we don't know their agenda. We don't, I
right.
think Nate said that the
Yep.
earlier the better.
We'll just have to play it by ear, but I think either April meeting, we could find time on the agenda to get this referred out because it is something that takes a lot of time, and the earlier it's referred out, the longer the hearings can last and the less pressure there is under the hearing stage, which I think is more important than this end of extending time. I think the hearing stage, more time for that is probably more important.
Yes. Andy.
yeah, so I guess I'm wondering, do we want to have a completely clean document to send to planning board for their initial orientation to it, or if we have a few track changes or a few comments in it and send that to staff and they send it to planning board, is that okay?
I think that's okay.
Yeah, we've received stuff from planning board with that in the past when it's sort of in development stage.
And I also sometimes resent if something is thought to be absolutely perfect. It's like, why bother asking us to look at it if you think it's so perfect? So I'm completely open to commentary from that planning board on this document. Yeah. Stephanie.
I do want to note that the Energy and Climate Action Committee would really love the opportunity to review this and weigh in as well. And I'm thinking that at the time that we submit it to the planning board, so once we have the staff recommended changes, I could get it to them as well. And they could provide some feedback also.
That'd be
And
great.
maybe
That'd be
they could
great.
provide their feedback to the planning board. Might be that might be a good time.
Copy both of us.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean that the CRC members can't be looking at it in the meantime. So Stephanie, just going back to confirm, today is the 26th. If this document comes to you um, and then it gets passed along directly to the planning board. I think they had a meeting yesterday. I did not listen. So that would have been the 2nd and 4th. I think their next meeting is probably March 11 and March 25. We would target them having it well in advance of the next meeting so they can have a chance to look at it.
So I thought Nate told me that the planning board had a meeting proposed on the 18th, the planning board. So
Okay, maybe it is the 18th. Maybe it's the 4th and the 18th.
I
Sorry.
think so, because I think that was what we talked about, because we thought the 4th was too soon.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
because we want to give staff time, because that would be next week. So that wouldn't give staff enough time, really.
Right. Either. Okay. So we're aiming for this to go well ahead of time if possible to the planning board for their March 18 meeting.
Yep.
So I'm just trying to confirm my responsibility here. I'm not sure I need anything very official then if Stephanie and staff are going to take a look at it and then they are going to send it along to the planning board. It doesn't officially have to come from CRC. Except maybe a note today to Pam, Nate, Jeff, Doug Marshall, maybe, and just say, we're asking staff to take one last look, and then it will be just sort of a heads up. I'm happy to do that. Any thoughts?
Can we include the chair of the ECAC as well on
Sure.
that
Who
message,
is that?
please?
Who
That's
is
Lori,
that?
Lori Goldner. I can
Oh, yeah,
send you her contact if you don't have it.
great, thank you. Okay, yep. Perfect. Then a question maybe for Mandy and or Stephanie. KP Law referral. My question here on my time chart was, can the CRC send this directly to KP Law without town council referral?
So our charge now allows us to try and do that. We'd have to send it through Paul. And I think once we submit it to the council for its referral for hearing to the two bodies, that if you submit it to Paul at the same time and say, we'd like to get KP Law started on this so that by the time the hearings start, we've got their responses back so that they can be included in the hearings, I would guess that he wouldn't have a problem with that. So I would say
And
sort
that-
of
Okay,
ask him at the same time it's going on a council agenda so that the responses can be back
yeah,
before
that
the
looks
hearings
like the-
start.
yeah.
Doesn't
Okay.
GOL send things via Paul to KP Law without
No,
going to council?
we just changed it at the end of the last session
Yeah.
so that all the committees can do it directly. Well, directly that we can do it while we're working on the substance. Much more efficient.
Great. And that's about the same time frame anyway. If April 23, 22 is sort of the completion of their planning board's draft review, if you will, our comments, it's a pretty good package at that point. I will ask for a referral, a request for a referral for public hearings. It will go to Paul, it will go to KP Law. Great. Okay, so that's a little ways out. That's a little ways down the road. Good. Okay. It is 2:45, just about. We actually have minutes. I'm going to move on to the next agenda item. And that is action item 4B, minutes for March 12 that were in our packet. Would anyone like to move their approval? Any comments? Jennifer,
Oh, no, are you moving? I was just going to move to
I was
accept
going to
the
ask if
minutes.
anybody wanted to move.
I so move.
Any second?
I'll second.
Okay, we'll go around the horn. Mandy Jo,
Aye.
Jennifer Taub,
Yes.
Andy Churchill,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Pam Rooney's a yes. So we have minutes for approval, and I'll work with Andy just to do however we set it up and ship it off to Athena to be posted as approved. Number 5, next agenda preview. We may not have to talk about clean energy bylaw, which would be great. I would like to spend some time talking about the ZBA and the planning board, the time that it takes, and the fact that we don't have very many people having submitted community activity forms for these two prestigious and wonderful boards. So we are real thin in terms of folks who have put their names in the hat. Announcements. The next CRC meeting is March. Any other? Sorry, Andy, go ahead.
No, I just had a question about how many openings are there on the planning board and ZBA?
There are 2 full members whose terms will end on the end of June. Both of them have served only 1 term. There are 2 associate members whose terms always end at the end of the year. we can have up to 4 associate members for these 1-year positions. That's the ZBA.
Mhm.
For the planning board, there are 3 members whose terms have will end on June 26th. Sorry, June of 26th.
Mhm.
And 2 of those people have served each only 1 term.
Who are do we know who those are, or I can just go
Yep.
looking?
Yep, you could go to the form, but the person has filled 2 terms, served 2 terms, is Johanna Newman. She would come off again at the end of June. And
Mhm.
there are two folks, yeah, I'm forgetting right now,
Okay.
who have only served 1 term. But there's a table right on each of their websites.
Okay.
So one of the topics is, shake the bushes a little bit. Jennifer.
Yeah, and we can certainly ask in a council meeting for the counselors to get the word out
Yeah.
through their mailing lists. But these
Yes.
are, can be time consuming. I mean, yeah, it's been harder to, I think that there's something also intimidating about these committees. I find when I reach out, a lot of people are, so anyway, that's, I think, why it can be a hard.
Yeah. Actually, there were a couple people who put their names in. One person just got selected for the Amherst College student just got selected for the cable TV committee and was looking for a way to get involved. So I think he's found his involvement. So I made a note of it in the thing. Andy, just a quick question. Mandy, go ahead.
Yeah, should we post the notice of vacancies or whatever so that we get that going? And then is there a way you could ask Paul if you rewrite or, resubmit we sort of do the news and announcement thing every time to get that on the webpage and get a news and announcement sort of email out to people like Paul does with the other vacancies? Can you submit that too to Paul to ask the communications director to put that on the website?
Yep. So next meeting, I will, do I need to get approval from the committee for a posting notice?
I think we're technically supposed to approve it under the
Okay,
policy, I think.
okay,
You have to
so-
read the policy.
All right, well, so next meeting, I'll have a draft for the notice to be approved, to be posted, and you all can weigh in on that. And then I will also, we can start preparing all of the questions to be asked. We can do all of that ahead of time. We don't need to wait until the last minute. Jennifer.
Yeah, and if Andy is going to be helping with the setting up the interviews as vice chair, there's samples of all the correspondence from other years.
Yes, yes. I'm going to ask Andy, do you have access to the CRC SharePoint folders?
Not that I know of yet, but I'm working on it.
Okay, me too. I can't get into the TSO one either. So I need some help on that as
How
well.
do we go about getting that expedited?
I am gonna send in a request to IT and copy Athena. Athena has given me some instructions on how to do it, but I'm pretty technologically poor, so I need help. Stephanie.
Sorry, but this literally just came in my inbox. There is going to be a hybrid meeting of the ZBA and the Conservation Commission on March 3rd at 7 p.m. with a representative from KP Law to discuss the solar siting changes, and it's going to be followed by a question and answer session. And the public is invited to attend, so I just wanted to make you aware of that opportunity.
What's the date again? I'm sorry.
March 3rd, so it's next week at 7 p.m. So it's a Tuesday, 7 p.m. And it's posted. I'll forward this to
Thank you.
to Pam so that you can send it to all the members of this
That
group.
would be great. That'd be great. I'd love to hear what they hear.
Sure.
Okay. Um, Andy, I will reach out to you to just sort of walk through all the folders and files that Mandy explained to me 3 years ago.
Mhm.
Because it's all very organized. It's all very
Great.
organized.
And maybe we
Okay.
we can combine our connection with IT or whatever. At the same
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Okay. I may reach out to them immediately after this meeting because I'm getting tired of not having access. Okay. The next CRC meeting is March 12th, and we will be talking about obviously the ZBA and planning board appointments. That does not take a whole meeting. Were there any other potential meeting topics? We may spend, I think I'm going to keep clean energy on there because we could talk about timing of the sequence and that kind of thing, but we won't be talking about content unless, well, wait a minute, we'll have some feedback from staff by then. Correct?
I'm sorry, by which date?
By our March 12 meeting date, it sounds like staff will have put together thoughts again on the remaining questions. The material will have gone to the planning board and back to CRC. And we, in fact, could spend some time on the 12th talking about the staff changes that were suggested. So I am going to leave that on the agenda
Okay,
as a
that's good for
future,
me to know. Okay.
great, as a future agenda item. There was nothing that came in unexpected in the last 48 hours, and so I think we can adjourn. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Let's go around the horn. Mandy Johanicky,
Hi.
Jennifer Tao,
Yes.
Pam Roniza, yes, Andy Churchill,
Yes.
and Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
This has been very productive. We have made our way through a huge mountain.
For
Thank you,
those
Stephanie.
new to this committee, it's like what, 18 months in the
Oh,
in
for
a
some of
long
us, it's been a
haul.
whole lot longer.
Oh, at least. I think
will-
it's been at least 2 years.
You don't know
I
what you've been missing yet.
I greatly appreciate all of your patience, and I will forever have Mandy Jo's face ingrained in my memory of sheer joy.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Stephanie,
It'll
much.
be
so
even
much.
better when we're done the hearings.
Yeah.
Exactly. So is one of the staff going to hit record or shall I stop recording?
I'll stop recording.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.